Hi guys, Jackie from Famished Farm, and we are back in the kitchen this week. Actually, we're out at the grill this week because I have three new recipes for kabobs. We're doing a shrimp, a chicken, and a beef kebab, but I think any one of these recipes, you could change your protein source and mix it up a little bit. So, why kebabs? Well, they're usually delicious, they cook fast, and they're healthy. So, they're a triple win in my book. From recipe10eats.com, we're making a marinated beef kebab. From askchefdennis.com, we're making sweet chili shrimp and pineapple skewers. And to get started, let's make chicken kebabs. This one is from tastebetterfromscratch.com. Let's get cooking. Here's the fourth thing about kebabs. They're fast. I don't even have the camera on. I'm already like half done. So I've got a half a cup of soy sauce in the bag with my chicken breast. I've got a half a cup of Sprite, although I'm using Fresca. It's the only beverage I've got, carbonated beverage I've got in the house. And about a tablespoon of oil. The recipe calls for a half a cup. And then we've also put in about a teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of horseradish, and then we're just gonna, mix this up in the bag. I'm using the paper towel just in case this reused bag has a leak, and today it does not. So once this is all mixed together, we're gonna just throw that in the fridge. Then we're gonna prep our vegetables, and the recipe calls for 2 bell peppers, any color. And I've got obviously this yellow and the green, and we're just going to chunk those into, roughly 1-inch pieces. I'm just wondering if frozen bell peppers would work for this too. I've not tried it. Have any of you tried that? So then we also are going to prepare 1 sweet onion. I'm going to use just a white onion. It's what I've got in the house, and I'm going to use about a half of one. And here I'm just separating out the sections. Now, I'm just going to use a small bowl to season these, and that's one thing that I've learned in doing kebabs. Go ahead and season them, and the recipe does not strictly call for this, but I'm just using my everything but the kitchen bagel. This is kind of my go-to. A little bit of high temperature oil, everything but the bagel seasoning. And then once those come out of the fridge, they were in the fridge for half the day. I do this generally after lunch. I'm going to prepare my grill basket. I've pulled out my stainless steel skewers. Here I am finding it in the fridge. We'll pull the veggies and the meat out. This particular day when I made the marinade, I did not chunk up my meat. So here I am trimming it and then putting it in roughly 1-inch chunks. And then I've got my stainless steel skewers. If you're using bamboo, go ahead and soak them. But I'm just going to use the stainless steel. She mentions leaving a little bit of space between the chicken and the veggies. I just never do that. I just load them as fully as I pack them on there because I usually have so many vegetables I'm cooking too. It's hard to fit everything on, but you do you. If you want to space them out, go ahead and do it. So this is just regular speed, and then when I do the other skewers, I'm just gonna do real fast. Once you've done this, guys, there is no right or wrong. Just get your meat and your vegetables on the skewer. You can separate your meat onto skewers. You can put all the same vegetables onto skewers. Some people like to do that because then if things cook faster, they can remove it. I like to see the pretty colors, all this variety, this variegated look to it. So I just think it's very attractive. So while I'm doing this, Rod is outside and he has got the grill going on medium high, and it ends up taking, on this particular day, these cooked for about 11 minutes on each side. Now, again, it's going to cook faster if you space them out a little bit. You can see everything here is kind of packed on tightly, so it does take a full 11 minutes on each side. Now, in this recipe, she also includes oven instructions if you don't want to use your grill, and that is basically in a 450 oven using tin foil and some nonstick spray and cooking them for about 15 to 25 minutes. She also says you could go ahead and make the marinade and cut up your vegetables 1 to 3 days in advance. Of course, I'm just doing this the day of. I generally do my kabobs right after lunch, make the marinade, and start letting the meat marinate. So this turned out absolutely delicious, and it is definitely going to be one of our kebab rotations. And again, play around with your meat. I can see this working equally well with shrimp and pork, and what the heck, try it with beef too. So our sweet chili shrimp and pineapple skewers, we're going to start out by making the marinade. We're going to add a 1/4 cup of lime juice. I'm using my bottled lime juice. Go ahead and use fresh if you've got it. And then the recipe calls for a bottle of sweet chili sauce. And honestly, I'm going to use probably half of this, maybe 3/4, and a tablespoon of parsley. You will use cilantro if you like it, and salt it if you like. I'm never salt shrimp, just it seems salty enough on its own, and then we'll mix this up. The directions with the recipe just call for you to brush the marinade onto the skewers. I am, of course, making this in plenty of time, so I'm going to go ahead and scoop out roughly half the marinade, and then I'll soak my shrimp in the marinade, and then I'll reserve the other half of the marinade to be used here in a little bit. So here's my shrimp. This happens to be a 12-ounce bag. And I've been buying the 1-pound bag. I think it's colossal shrimp from Walmart. This just is one of these days where I only had the 12-ounce bag. The recipe does call for a full pound. So then I'm going to go ahead and mix the marinade into the shrimp, and then that's going to go into the fridge. But again, if you want to do per her instructions, just brush the marinade onto the skewers once your shrimp is already on your wooden or your metal skewers. Then we're going to prepare our vegetables. Now, I happen to have taken out 2 zucchini and this little tiny onion out of the garden today. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to the vegetables for this particular recipe. And partly I'm doing this because the recipe calls for a red and a green bell pepper. And this day I do not have a red pepper, so I have this really humongous green pepper, and the zucchini and the little bit of onion will just go a little ways toward taking the place of that red onion. So just go ahead and prepare your peppers and whatever other vegetables you're going to use. Now, the recipe does not call for marinating the vegetables, but as I've said before, I just think the vegetables are so much better when they've got a little bit of seasoning and oil before they go on to the skewers. So that's what I'm going to do here. Put these all in a Ziploc bag, and then a little bit of whatever high temperature oil you're using, just a tablespoon will do it. And again, my trusty everything but the bagel seasoning, and then give that a good mix. The recipe also calls for 2 cups of fresh pineapple cut into 1-inch cubes. This week I bought a fresh pineapple, and I'm going to end up using it for 2 meals. So I've got 8 really good sized chunks here that I'm going to be alternating with the vegetables and the shrimp. And again, I'm using metal skewers. You use wood skewers, whatever you've got. And again, just alternate if you prefer. I like the color, the different variety of colors and textures on the same skewer. If you want things to cook at the same temperature, then put all your meat on one skewer, put all your green peppers on another. You get the idea. Now, where we differ on the recipe is I've already marinated all the vegetables and the meat. And she is going to have you go ahead and thread your skewers with your meat and your veggies, and then brush the skewers with the marinade 5 minutes before you put them on the grill. And then you're going to grill these over medium heat. She says it will take 4 to 5 minutes per side, and Rod said he did the lower end of that, so about 4 minutes per side. And then you can brush the chili sauce on the skewers as they cook. We, of course, didn't do that because we marinated them for half the day in the fridge. Now, these come off the grill and they are fantastic. Pineapple on the grill is just out of this world. You'll notice here I've got some extra vegetables, so they're just going to go on their own skewer. That's what I'm doing here. And guys, I'll put a link to this particular grill basket. I'm sure there's many more than the one that we got at Menards, but ours did come from Menards and we love it. I'll be honest, when I started thinking about recipes for kabobs and grilling, I really only thought of chicken, beef, and pork. But guys, if you like seafood, be sure to include these shrimp kebabs as part of your rotation. They're just a delicious change of pace from the everyday chicken, beef, pork. This is another one for the rotation, guys. This was absolutely delicious, super easy, super healthy, as long as you watch the sodium on anything with shrimp in it. And yes, we will make this again and again. So I'm starting with a top sirloin steak, about 1.75 pounds. The recipe says sirloin steak tips or other steak, and they only called for 1.5 pounds. This is what I found, and I'm going to cut this into, good size 1.25 inch thick chunks. Now you'll notice I do trim up the steak. It did have a 1/4 inch layer of fat on it, so I'm trimming that pretty good as I go here. And he does caution you to make sure to use quick grilling cuts of beef, not those that you would need to slice against the grain. So avoid skirt and flank steaks, but get a good thick piece of steak. That's the key here in this recipe. So prepare your marinade. I'm using a bag here, use a bowl, whatever you like. We're going to start out with some minced garlic. I'm using not cloves, but dry. Then some onion powder, about a teaspoon there. Some soy sauce, 2.5 tablespoons of just light soy, reduced sodium soy. 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire. And I've got the cheap Heinz, use Lane Perrins if that's what you've got. And then 2 tablespoons of balsamic. Then add about a tablespoon of your high heat vegetable oil and some pepper. I just give it a couple good shakes here. And then we'll mix this up. Now for our vegetables, I'm going to use the other half of a white onion that I prepared the other day, and I'm just going to separate it into pretty good size little chunks here. And again, I'm just going to marinate them in a Ziploc bag. And then I've washed the mushrooms. It calls for 16 small mushrooms. This is just an 8-ounce box of, white button mushrooms. And then throw those in your bag too. And then we'll start cutting up our bell peppers. The recipe calls for 3 bell peppers, a red, yellow, and a green. Here I have an orange and a green, and that's plenty of green pepper for just Rod and I for a kebab recipe. And once those are chunked up, we'll put those in the bag with another roughly tablespoon of whatever high heat oil you want to use. And I'm going to use my trusty everything but the bagel seasoning again, and then just give them a good mix. So now we're back in the afternoon. We're getting ready to put these on skewers. They've been in the refrigerator obviously all afternoon. And we're just going to alternate our whatever vegetables you're using, in this case, mushrooms, green peppers, and the onion. In his instructions, Chef Dennis says to thread the items loosely, don't smush them together tightly, as it will cook more evenly if you don't do that. So this is something maybe I need to start working on a little better. But he also puts 2 pieces of vegetables in between each piece of meat. You do you. Just get them all on there so we can get this on the grill and eat dinner. Okay, and once you get all of your meat into your basket or however you're doing this, any reserved marinade, you can brush your skewers with it. He also mentions drizzling with olive oil. That was a step that I just didn't do. These are marinated all afternoon, so there's really no need in my case to do that. And he mentions cooking these for 2 minutes on each side. Each of 4 sides is what he says. We did it probably 4 or 5 minutes on each side. When they come off the grill, tent these loosely with foil and let them sit for several minutes before you serve them. These guys, another winner. This is super easy, super fast, super delicious, and it will be part of our summertime grilling rotation. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed all of these kebab recipes. If you like our content, please hit like and subscribe. And if you have any comments, any ideas for healthy side dishes, healthy summertime grilling recipes, just any healthy suggestions, leave them in the comments down below. Thanks for watching.